Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Millennial Smart, and I'm bringing you the slop, the whole slop, and nothing but the slop. I Every day I lose more faith in professional wrestling. I'm telling you that every day I'm losing more and more and more faith in professional wrestling. What did Gail Kim say that was so wrong? And how did it spiral out of control from this point of her criticizing garbage mud show wrestling nonsense to her essentially being labeled a creep? How does that work? Only in professional wrestling does this work out to be this way, right? So let's kick it off like this, okay? There's this video going around. I'm not sure if it's related to GCW because Brett Lauderdale did chime in on this, which we'll get to him in a little bit. But apparently there's this clip circulating from this death match, right? Where this guy, you know what? Actually, let me not explain it. I'd rather show you the video so you can have the context and then you can see it for yourself. We'll talk about what Gail Kim said in reference to that video and how this just completely snowballed out of fucking control. So first and foremost, check this video out. Who can say where the road goes? Which caused Gail Kim to essentially respond, and she was like, "This is pure trash. Say you don't know how to storytell without saying it." I mean, the proof is in the pudding, right? I mean, just saying. I'm having a hard time understanding how this right here relates to anything that is traditional storytelling in professional wrestling. Which, by the way, this is the tweet right here that got her all the trouble, right? Everybody came after her because of this tweet, which you probably look at and you say, yeah, pretty innocuous tweet, right? How do you argue? Because there were a lot of people saying things like, oh, people have different tastes in professional wrestling, this, that, and the third. And it's crazy how they're responding with that verbiage to Gail Kim while ignoring her taste, you know? But it is what it is, right? But what stemmed off of all those conversations essentially entailed Brett Lauderdale to chime into the conversation. And he said, "I don't dislike Gail Kim. It's clear she's well liked by her peers. That's why it's so disappointing to see her echo the same uninformed, tell-a-story hot dog handshake bullshit about death matches as old losers like Al Snow, Jim Cornette, and Dutch Mantel. She's better than that. She's better than them." Which, hey, that's Brett Lauderdale's position. I disagree with his position. I think there's a lot of people who will probably disagree with Brett Lauderdale as far as his takes in regards to death matches. Some people, look, I get it. Once again, the same people who are, echoing the same sentiments of some people have different tastes of professional wrestling. That's fine. But at least for most people like me and most people who fall on that Jim Cornette, Dutch Mantel, Al Snow side of the argument, we tend to look at death matches as an end-all be-all, right? Right? It's how do I put this? I'm trying to equate it to something. It's the little pump of hip-hop, right? Right? If hip-hop, if you're I don't know, if your tippy top of hip-hop is something like Black Star or the Roots or something like that, right? We look at death matches as the little pump. Like that's what I'm saying. Like there's nothing gratifying behind it. It's just simply doing something for the sake of doing something. But we're not here to get lost in the sauce in regards to death matches, right? That's what Brett Lauderdale said, and that's his opinion. Gail Kim did respond to Brett Lauderdale by essentially saying this: "I like you, Brett, as well. I said I would watch the doc and give it a chance. I dislike death matches and always have. Like I've said before, wrestling is subjective. I also like Dutch, Jim Cornette, and Al. This is what's so great about debates and conversations. We can all have a say." Which I will say, I'm pretty sure Gail Kim does not believe that when it comes to politics. But nevertheless, though, in regards to this conversation, in regards to wrestling, okay, bet. Yeah, I completely agree with what Gail Kim is saying. I'm pretty sure, and mind you, I fall on the Gail Kim side of the argument when it comes to professional wrestling. I'm pretty sure we see professional wrestling in a very, very similar light. Also, I grew up on Gail Kim, so again, she came up at a time where I understand her perspective based off of what she provided for me on television. One of my favorite, if not my favorite feuds from a women's perspective of all time is Gail Kim and Awesome Kong. But that's ironically how it all starts to escalate a little bit more. So you notice how Brett Lauderdale brings up Jim Cornette, brings up Al Snow, brings up Dutch Mantel. Well, apparently Gail Kim got lost in the sauce when it came to some of these arguments, because rather than, staying on the point as far as the debates are considered that she was talking about, to, hone in on her opinion regarding death matches, she let the AEW fans get in her head, right? And the thing is, you do not let these people get in your head. You do not let these people allow you to get lost in the sauce, right? So this piece of shit here, Angsty Apple Dummy, which, by the way, he has an alternative profile account. This is him right here. You've seen him all the time in my comment section. He's actually one of the guys. Actually, I think he's the number one guy. This piece of shit here is the one that started the rumor about me not taking care of my son. So it just shows you the depths of depravity that these people go to whenever you diss AEW, right? This guy right here, this is the same guy that lingers in my comment section, who tries to play partisan. I mean, he's clearly an AEW tribalist, right? That part is fine. It's cool if you want to be an AEW fanboy. I mean, sometimes it can go a little bit overboard, but hey, your prerogative. But the problem with people like this, right, is that they tend, and it's always that, again, that progressive side when it comes to how they look at things that you view different, that they're willing to try to destroy you as a person or destroy your character in order to push forward whatever they feel you disagree with them on, right? And when I dropped that video a couple of months ago, back in October of last year, actually, saying that I was going to take a break and the whole son stuff, he was the one that formulated that lie, saying that I didn't take care of my son because he didn't like my opinions about AEW, quite possibly my politics also, but that's neither here nor there. Well, he did it again, right? He tried to frame something in regards to, here, I'll read you his tweet verbatim. He said, "Hey, just wondering, what are your opinions on Cornette calling your fellow Asian..." Oh, that's something else about this guy too. He's very, very obsessed with identity and, skin and race. Again, he's very, very obsessed with that. He said, "Hey, just wondering, what are your opinions on Cornette calling your fellow Asian women's wrestlers things such as schoolgirls and sex dolls?" Which, again, he never provided any context in regards to what Jim Cornette did say that, but he never really provided the context so Gail can have something to go off of. Nevertheless, though, he continued, "As someone who's been a trailblazer for women's equality in the pro wrestling industry, don't you feel that's a bit counterintuitive?" Which Gail Kim then went on to respond. Again, I wish she never took the bait from this guy, because he doesn't really necessarily care for her opinion necessarily. She's just a means to an end. And in fact, he only reflected off of her simply because she's Asian and he wants to be able to focus strictly on that, right? So he tries to conflate the Asian identity of Gail Kim with someone who's completely different in Asian ethnicity. I mean, that'd be like taking me and then saying, "Hey, how do you feel about this Jamaican talking about black people? How do you feel about this Creole person talking about black people?" But they do this shit all the time, right? And Gail Kim, she unfortunately fell for the trap, right? And she said, "When did he say this? And can you send me the link, not a clip?" Which then someone went out of their way, right? And they ended up sending her, I think did he send her a playlist? No, he sent her a specific video with Jim Cornette talking about Riho, right? He said, "Also has a problem with Riho to the point there's a YouTube playlist on the subject," which the guy did end up posting that right here. So if you want to go check it out, again, the link is right there also if you want to check out, although I'm pretty sure my audience already knows what Jim Cornette said about Riho, right? So then Gail Kim went on this, I don't want to say a diatribe because I don't want to really downplay what she said necessarily, but I feel like everything that she said was absolutely on point. I don't see anything in regards to what she said that was outright controversial at all. She merely gave her opinion. She merely gave her stance on the subject, and people can take it for what it's worth. But apparently they took it and they ran with it in completely different ways that were counterintuitive to what she was actually trying to put out, right? She said, and I quote, "I listened to this whole clip, which I said I didn't want clips, but that's fine. The only issue that I had was that he made a comment about her teeth. I will say, and I haven't watched AEW in a very long time, but when I did watch Riho, and nothing against her at all, because I am the biggest supporter of all women who want to make it in this business, but I did feel uncomfortable watching her because the camera shots would go up her skirt and she was always dressed like a very little girl and it felt improper. I am also into very believable wrestling. Not everyone is, especially nowadays. And it was very hard for me to believe a little girl that was being portrayed of that size was fighting the women they had in that division. To put into context, I find Io, Mia, Asuka, Kairi, and Lei Ying to be more believable, and I don't feel uncomfortable watching. Right? Which then people went crazy over this. Again, you just heard what I said about what Gail Kim said, and people went unbelievably crazy about this, right? They were saying things such as she's a hypocrite, because if that's the case, how can she go up against an Awesome Kong? Why is she focusing on things like, again, they're being creeps about this, and again, they're purposely taken out of context. That's why I said I wish she never took the bait, because this is what they wanted, right? As soon as you go after AEW, this is how they push. This is how they go forward with their attacks, right? Gail Kim went out of her way to give her opinion, which nothing wrong with that. Like I said, they called her a hypocrite. They essentially were saying things like, why are you focusing on Riho and the camera's going up her skirt and stuff like that? No one ever talked about that kind of stuff. Essentially is what they were going after her over, right? And it got massively out of control, right? Just to highlight you an example, I'll give you an example of what some of these guys were actually saying, right? This person said, by that logic, you had no chance against Awesome Kong. The fuck is she on about? Talking about Gail Kim, right? Gail Kim responds with, oh my God, read the tweets. I said I saw one show and I felt uncomfortable with the little girl outfit where they shot up her ass and then the match didn't look believable. My X notifications are going crazy right now, or are going crazy, so I need to clarify. Damn, people here are insane. Yeah, that tends to be the case within the wrestling IWC space, that people tend to take things out of context and blow it way out of proportion. Yeah, because what Gail Kim is essentially saying is, look at Riho. Just look at Riho. People are comparing Riho to AJ Lee. No, you actually can't. AJ Lee, that's the problem. AJ Lee is incredibly fucking small, right? And honestly, it kind of did look ridiculous with Becky Lynch running away from her, right? Riho is smaller than AJ Lee. You can't, like, I feel like even towards Becky Lynch's size, that is like the bare minimum as far as what you should attain in order to still continue going forward in the wrestling business to look somewhat believable as a woman's wrestler, right? Once you get to AJ Lee's level, it starts to really, really trend leftward, right? It really, really starts to skew a little tiny bit. Now you have someone who's smaller than AJ Lee. You can't get any smaller than a Riho. And you're having Riho take on people like Nyla Rose. Like I'm just trying to, I'm trying to get whether or not these people are coming in good faith. Because Gail Kim's small, and she's almost twice the size of Riho. That's how small Riho is. That Gail Kim is almost twice as big mass-wise. Like, this is not a jab at Gail. She's still a very skinny lady. But I mean, like, she is like, that's what I mean. She's so small in stature. The fact that Gail Kim, being that small, almost is twice the size of Riho, that's what Gail Kim is referencing, right? That's what Gail Kim is referencing. Not to mention, did you watch the matches with Gail Kim and Awesome Kong versus the matches with Riho versus people who are twice her size, which is pretty much all her opponents? Riho is going head up with these girls. There's no legitimate storytelling, which started off all this, by the way, as far as how Gail Kim reflected off of this issue. There was no a setup for a spot to bring the opponent down to her level. That's what Gail Kim did with her matches with Awesome Kong. There's not one Awesome Kong match that you don't watch where Awesome Kong slips up and makes a mistake on her own regards. Like, say for an example, she wants to go after Gail Kim, she'll run into a pole trying to, like, I don't know, body splash her on the ring post, and then Gail will move out of the way, and then Awesome Kong would hurt herself or stun herself, which will make Gail Kim see her prone and then go after her knee, for an example, to get her down to her size. Or if it's hardcore matches, she'll use weapons against her. That's how Gail Kim and Awesome Kong matches are. She brought her down to her level. You know what I mean? She brought her down to her level. You don't see that nowadays. That's the unbelievable part that Gail Kim is talking about. Is her size, plus the fact that the matches that she's watching, she's not watching her work. It's just going out there and doing an exhibition with someone who's twice your size. I don't know if these people are being... no, I know that they're being bad faith. I try to give the benefit of the doubt sometimes, but I know that they're being bad faith. Just look at what the Angsty guy said, right? Like, he deliberately tried to conflate her Asian heritage with what other women were, I don't know, because again, they have this identity generalization in their head, and she tried to take her being Korean and conflate it with other Asian races, and essentially that means because Jim Cornette has made comments, which, by the way, Jim Cornette absolutely loves Gail Kim, so again, I'm not even sure why he even had to bring that up, but because someone brought up Jim Cornette, never mind Al Snow and Dutch Mantel, he specifically honed in on Jim Cornette to tie Gail Kim to that, to get her to speak on that situation, knowing how uncomfortable it would be for Gail Kim, only to get her because she talked about Riho. There is no good faith conversation with these people. There is none. It's all gotchas, and it's all whataboutisms, and it's all, well, I mean, you like that guy, and this guy says something bad, so explain yourself. Like, you can't do it with these people. Like I said, I talked about AEW in negative terms, and the first thing that this asshole did, the first thing that these people do is that they go after your family. Like, these people are deranged, right? And to make matters much worse, to give credibility to this, Kenny Omega had to chime in. Now, to be fair, because Gail Kim is going to end up saying this also, it's just the timing of the entire situation, and obviously looking at what the people are saying and stuff like that, right? It seems like it's perfectly aligned with the message that Gail Kim initially stated, right? So Kenny Omega says, another day and another legend, in quotations, doing the splits on it for the yearly TKO gift basket. And everybody, before anyone says, Devontae, why are you taking Kenny out of the people who are supporting Kenny Omega, when you go up and down his thread, are going after Gail Kim. They're all going after Gail Kim, which is, again, timed perfectly with Kenny Omega's protege being Riho. Again, the coincidences, it's right there. So once again, Kenny Omega, because again, all the time he talks about the E-drones and the keyboard warriors and stuff like this, and I fuck with Kenny Omega, right? I may have a difference in opinion in regards to politics. I may not like all the shit that he does, but over time, over the past few months or so, I've grown to like Kenny Omega, right? As a performer, quite frankly, I don't really mind him as a human being also, right? Although he can say some stupid shit from here and there, but that's just a difference of opinion. My point being is, though, gone are the days from like 4 years ago when someone can make a mistake and call you a WWE champion and you rile up your fan base to go after them like you did JR, right? Like, I thought those days were behind Kenny Omega, right? Well, essentially not. Because again, someone goes after your protege and you take it upon yourself to essentially signal boost by even alluding to this, by sneak dissing. And like I said, it's not me who also believes that, you know, he's talking about Gail Kim. It's his fans. Also, it's Gail Kim who believes that he's also going after her, right? He said, or she said in response to this tweet, if you're trying to beat around the bush and misinterpret things like the rest of the yahoos, let me clarify that you are wrong. Which then people went after her again after this tweet right here. Again, there's no winning. Again, I wish she never took the bait from the piece of shit angsty Apple dummy. I wish she never took the bait. She should have never taken the bait. Never take the bait from these people. And to be fair, just like I stated, she did clarify herself when she said, and if you're not talking about me, then I'll apologize. But with all the tribalistic crazies out yesterday misinterpreting things, I was just assuming so. There you have it. There you have it, man. I keep telling you people, don't give these people an inch because they will indeed take a mile. How did we go? How did we go from this death match looks really, really retarded all the way down to, oh wow, you think I hate women in professional wrestling because of how small or how big or how they look or whatever the case may be, to you're a creep from looking up women's skirts? Like, this is what this divulged into. This is what this whole entire situation divulged into, simply because someone detracted from the norm opinion of professional wrestling nowadays because they had a simple take that everybody else apparently had a problem with. Craziness. Absolute fucking craziness. And again, if Kenny Omega somehow, some way, coincidentally or not, I'm not sure how this doesn't somehow reflect off of the Riho situation. I'm not sure why he would just go out his way to, but to be fair, I will say Gail Kim, it's not just Riho. Obviously, her siding with Jim Cornette and everything to probably put a target on her back as far as people like Kenny Omega are concerned, because, Kenny hates Jim because Jim calls him Twinkle Toes. So therefore, if you're an op of Kenny, therefore you're an op of Kenny, meaning if you're associated with the person who's an op of Kenny. I guess that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, right? But Gail Kim said nothing wrong, and quite frankly, I don't know, get off her back. Is that really going to help anything? Probably not. But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below in regards to how you felt about the video. Anything like you'd like to chime in with, talk about, bring up, something that I missed in context that apparently fell through the loop. I can't think of anything clever right now, folks. All right, fuck. All right, damn it. I need to get more sleep. That's what I need to do, okay? Like I said, fuck Dynamite tonight. And I'm going to go play some God of War. So my name is Devontae, aka Millennial Smart, and I'll be catching you fine folks later. Deuces and the P. Ice.